to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know that my guest and I are super excited that you're joining us this week. So here's the deal, guys. Like, I know when I chose the title of this show, that word change had to be in it for me because we face change every day. It feels like every day. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. So we get that knot in our stomach, like, here we go again. What am I going to do? Here is the reality that I have found in my 62 years on this earth. When we hit those elements of change, especially if they're thrust upon us and we didn't choose it per se, communication is going to be a critical tool for you to be able to navigate with clarity to make that change or create the change and kind of fast forward everything. So in the show notes is my link to the communication style assessment. Again, my gift to you. You know the routine. If you've been listening to me for a while, you will get 2 reports. One will spotlight just your natural communication superpowers. It's how your message naturally lands. We don't really have to modify that. The more important report is the secondary report, which is your lowest score. And that reflects conversations that you're having with folks that are maybe 180 degrees different in how they communicate. To me, that's a blind spot that is worth exploring. And that is usually where we get stuck when we're in that element of change. So again, the link is in the show notes, my gift to you. And I do hope it helps you navigate whatever change you're facing with a little bit more ease and grace. So to set the stage for my guest and my conversation today, I chose a quote by Travis Bradberry, and Travis says, "Grit is that extra something that separates the most successful people from the rest. It's the passion, perseverance, and stamina that we must channel in order to stick with our dreams until they become a reality." 25 years ago, I set out on my journey where I'm a control freak. It's nice to meet you, right? But I really wanted to gain control over my time, but also the income that I was bringing into the house. And that's why I started my business. And I actually never looked back. Here's the key ingredients, I think. I was passionate and I was on a mission to teach sales from the perspective of love, care, and respect. No ick here. And I felt too many companies were still in that pushing product or services, almost like vomiting their products and services to their client and not loving on their customers to create even better results, right? So passion, perseverance, and stamina were all present every day for me. Now, if it hadn't, I certainly wouldn't be doing it anymore. And when I reflect on the passion, I still have it today, which is kind of cool 25 years later. And I know that I have lived, when I look back and just reflect on my entire life, I know I lived a life of true purpose. And I believe that that's why my business has been successful. So here's a question for you to ponder. Are you living a life of purpose by choice? And there is no judgment in my question. I just really want you to think about it as my guest and I have our conversation today. So who is my amazing guest that we are going to dig into passion, right? And that stamina and that grit. Her name is Shadan Kapri. I wanted to make sure I said that right. Shadan is an attorney, business owner, and author recognized on the local, national, and international levels for her dedication to human rights and environmental justice. She focuses on how the younger generations demand that business be used for a force of good, and they are voting with their dollars when it comes to supporting brands and businesses that leave behind a positive legacy. So Shadan, thank you for being on. And oh, by the way, everyone, second time, I loved on her so much. The first time I forced her to be on again. Different topic, but I will put in the show notes our original episode, which I'm going to ask Shadan really briefly to tell everybody about, because I would love you to listen to that too. It's a movement that I think we all need to get passionate about. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello. Good. Great to see you again.
Yes, same. So just tell everybody, the last show we talked about the Red Movement. Can you just share what that is? Because I really want people to get involved in that.
So the Red Movement is my passion project. It's a project that I started. It really started many years ago. And what it is it ended up being a book and an international grassroots movement for people who want to take control of sort of not just what's happened in their life, but what's going on around the world. And the best way to do that is by consumerism, right? Because that's where our power is where our money goes. And so essentially the Red Movement is a human rights movement that states to corporations, to brands, to products that we will not support any type of product, a brand, an album, even a sports event, if people and the environment are being exploited in the process of that. And we're seeing that right now with the P. Diddy situation. A lot of people are saying that his music should be taken down. And so the Red Movement's really a passion project for me. It's the reason I get up in the morning. It's just about sort of using our power to do good in this world. And we're seeing Generation Z is demanding that.
It's interesting, that whole P. Diddy thing, and then we'll jump into today's topic. But it's
Mhm,
something you said that it just clicked with me. Take his music down. That's our First Amendment, right? Freedom of speech is our First Amendment.
mhm,
Bearing
mhm,
arms is our
mhm,
Second Amendment, right? So the First
mhm.
Amendment, I'm really going into the recesses of high school here, but our First Amendment, you know, now again, if it's like go out there and kill, yes, we should take that down. I understand,
Mhm, mhm.
but don't buy his music. Don't listen to
Exactly.
his music. So
Exactly.
instead of saying take it down, right? That cancel culture, I think, is very dangerous because that's freedom
Mhm,
of speech, right? We don't want to
mhm,
jeopardize our rights. But on the
mhm.
same token, don't listen, don't buy. You hit them in the
Right.
pocketbook. That's where we're going to create the change, right? Because if these businesses or these artists or whoever, right, we have to make an income. So that's where our power lies, not in
Mhm,
take him
mhm.
down because I don't like his message, right?
Right.
Again, we have to be careful with that one, I think.
Right. And I'm not saying take him down. I'm saying other
No,
people are saying
that's
take him
right.
down.
No, I get it.
I don't believe that his music should be taken down. What I do believe is that people can take a stand regarding what they support and
Agree.
whether these things are actually, contributing to a positive legacy or a negative legacy.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing this now with what's going on. And the Red Movement has been happening now for years. It just didn't really have a name. And so what I
Yeah.
did is I kind of created a name and a book that kind of supports this idea of, yes, there are everyday corporations, even from the clothes that we wear to the jewelry. And, there's things that we purchase that there's exploitation in the supply chain. And so to be aware of that, and if you're purchasing that and you're fine with that, then that's great. But if you're purchasing that and you don't support that, then don't put your money to places that you don't support.
I agree. And I love, just as an aside too, but go back and listen because I don't want to, we talked about this in such good detail. It's so powerful, Shadan. And that's why I'm spending this time because I do want people to go back. The Red Movement is because we all bleed the same. We really
Mhm.
are the same. So I love where you come from. And I apologize if when I said the freedom of speech, don't take it. I know you don't believe in that.
Mm-mm.
You believe that hit them where it hurts, man. Right? We don't have to get rid of amendments and all of that, but
No, 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 no,
no,
no.
as soon as we start using our dollars, that is the power that us as consumers have. And I just love your whole take on it. And I love the Red Movement because we really do all bleed the same. So just go and listen, guys. It was a moving and I think a very profound episode that what Shadan is trying to do out there. I think we all need to get involved. Again, just how you spend your money might just be enough. So again, enough said about that one. Now let's dig in to passion and perseverance and all of the things that made you who you are, right? And I know made me who I am. So, first question here, I know you came out with the book Discovering Your Purpose, The Path to Your Authentic Life, all about that. What made you write that book in addition to the other one we were just speaking with?
To me they really go hand in hand because when you discover your passion, your purpose in life, it gives your life a really sense of meaning, whatever that is for you. All of us have different purposes, all of us have different passions, and that's part of what makes this world so beautiful and great. And I think what's happened in the last, especially in the last 10 to 20 years, is we've become such a capitalistic society that it's always about, well, what am I getting for doing this? And I
Mhm.
think that's where a lot of, like, the unhappiness and the loneliness and the drug addiction and all of that is, because we're focusing on the wrong things. We're sort of looking outside to try to fill whatever void that's inside. And so I wrote this book because it really was a companion to the Red Movement in a strange way, because the Red Movement was my passion and creating that book was sort of my lifelong desire. And it brought me so much meaning and satisfaction and happiness and fulfillment that I couldn't get any other place in my life. And so I wanted to share that with people. I wanted people to find makes them get up in the morning, what makes their heart, like excited, what makes them think, yes, this is why I am here. This is part of my journey. This is what I'm supposed to do. And it could be anything. It could be creating beautiful art that moves people. It could be writing music. It could be literally anything. And the more every time I talk to somebody about this, it's like I see their eyes kind of light up because it's we all have it. But the problem is we live in this capitalistic society that doesn't really value that values, well, if you're going to put time, into something, well, what are you getting in return? Well, are you getting paid? Are you No, 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 no. Sometimes doing the work is the reward. That's
Yeah.
where we get our happiness. And I've noticed that when people forget about that or they take that out of their lives, there's a lot of things that happen that are kind of destructive and counterproductive. But when they bring it back, because I mean, listen, we all have to work, right? All of us have to work on some level. We all have to sort of put food on the table. But that doesn't mean that we give up on the things that make us come alive. That doesn't mean we give up on the things that we love to do. If that's art, music, if it's writing, if it's creating a podcast, and so my book really is about how to find your passion and then how to make that a reality for you. Now, that doesn't mean you should go and quit your job, which everyone thinks that, right? Oh, I found my passion. My passion is making music. Let's just say that. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go on the road. That's not realistic for everyone. But what is realistic is while you're doing your day job, while you're raising your kids, while you're taking care of all the things that you need to take care of, you create space and time in your life to pursue those things that you love. If it's music, if it's writing, if it's, whatever that is for you. And to give that its proper importance, because when you lose that, you lose a part of yourself.
Yeah.
You lose a part of sort of what makes you who you are. And some people spend their entire lives trying to find that again.
Yeah. You see it all the time, and you're right. Right. We're in soul sucking jobs. We
Hmm.
hate it. And people say, oh, I hate my job. The Sunday night blues, all of those things. And we do have to work, right, to have an income. So if we can all find our passion and parlay that into income, yay. But even if you can't, sometimes that passion can be enough for you to do volunteer work that fills
Hmm.
your soul, that
Hmm.
now you go to work because it's a means to an end, but you're
Hmm.
you're fulfilling your soul elsewhere. So the job becomes a little more bearable, right? It could be
Hmm.
as easy as that. Like you said, don't go out and quit your job if you can't pay your bills. We don't want people in poverty. Okay.
Hmm.
We want people to be able to pay the bills and eat healthy food and all of those things. The other thing, the purpose, finding your purpose and your passion in life. I do believe that the millennials were the first generation to really kind of pivot and say, I'm not going to get the soul sucking job per se. The blind side, I think, to the millennials, again, I've had so many come through my training and my own nieces and nephews conversations, etc. A lot of them say, well, pay me and then I'll do it. And I understand where that's coming from, because they saw their parents give their souls away and at the
Hmm.
end got laid off in their 50s, right? Or whatever that situation where it was a
Hmm.
disruption to the family. So they were
Hmm.
smarter. I give them credit, and they were more courageous. But the idea of, well, pay me and then I'll do it. See, I don't agree with that kind of perspective, because sometimes we have to do the job or learn how to do the job, then step into it and get paid. But you're slowing your progress down from a career standpoint if you're waiting to get paid to learn to do the job. So I think we have to be careful in what our perspective is, with that piece of it, because I do think the millennials are wiser than my generation for sure. I
Hmm.
just think we have to be really careful in how we present things, in the marketplace, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And really, it's funny because whenever I talk about this issue, my mind always goes back to this one conversation I had. This was back in 2000, I want to say 7. So
Mm.
a little while
While
ago.
ago.
I had my first job out of law school. I was a law clerk, and I remember we were sitting there. It was one of those office parties, and so I was sitting between two appellate judges because as law clerks, that's what you do. You work with appellate judges. And I'll never forget this conversation. I think about this often. One of the female judges was talking to another judge and me and was talking about her son and how she doesn't understand her son because her son wants to do something that he's passionate about, and that doesn't make sense to her because in her day it was all about making money and making and surviving. And I remember just sitting there, as somebody just out of law school, listening to this conversation between judges and these two older judges trying to sort of make sense of their children.
Mm.
And I remember thinking to myself, how sad is that? How sad that when you live your life a certain way and it's not the best, right? You do it because you have to, you do it for survival. But then when
Yeah.
you see your child, the millennial, the child was millennial, saying, I don't want to do that. I don't want to live like that. I want to do something that brings me meaning. It completely blew her mind. And I remember
Yeah.
thinking, I remember just sitting back that day and thinking to myself, there's something going on here. Like this was something bigger, and I couldn't put it into words, and I didn't know what it was, but I
Yeah.
just felt it was fascinating that we have these intelligent human beings that they're scratching their head at this idea of doing something that means something to you. To her, it was just almost nonsense. She was like, well, I didn't have that privilege. I had to find a job. I had to work wherever I had to work, and but that's true, and a lot of us have to do that. Hey, I went to law school because I knew that, writing was probably not going to pay my bills, and I
Yeah.
needed to do something else while I was pursuing my passion of writing and sort of connecting with people. But at the same time, how sad that we're
Yeah.
so indoctrinated that when somebody else, when our child, a millennial, gives us a different perspective, it blows our mind. She was blown away. And I often come back to that conversation in my mind and I think to myself, how incredibly sad. The son was trying to educate his very, very intelligent appellate judge mother by saying, no, I don't want to give my life away. I'm not going to take the bribe that is a salary and say, well, I'm going to give you all my time and all my
Yeah.
energy, but I'm going to do something that doesn't mean anything to me. And so she was really truly in that conversation trying to understand her son. And I remember the other judge looking at her like he was shaking his head too. And I'm the only one there saying, I think your son's a genius. I think your son is onto something. I don't know. But of course, I didn't say anything. I just kind of sat there and observed. And I think about that often. I think about how oftentimes salary, this the sort of stability is sort of the bribe of giving up your dreams, right?
Yeah.
Just we'll give you 50,000, 60,000, $70,000 a year. We'll work you to death, but hey, this is the good life, right? That's
Yeah.
what we're sold. This is the good life. And then we end up in our 50s, 60s, and 70s saying, hey, how come I didn't do what I wanted to do? Because now I'm close to the end and I feel like there's all these things that I gave up on just for survival. But then I see my kids don't have that same type of mentality. They're bucking tradition. They're saying, forget that. I'm not staying in a job for 2 years if it doesn't serve me. I'm not, doing all these rules. Because remember, I remember when I first started working, it was like 2 years. That's the minimum. You cannot stay at a job for less than 2 years. That looks so bad. And now you've got these Gen Zs that are leaving after 6 months and they're saying, no, my life is meaningful. I am not going to waste it away on something that just drains and sucks my soul. And I just find that so interesting that the future generations, the Gen Zs, the millennials, they're the ones sort of paving the way. And the rest of them are trying to like figure out what's going on, what went wrong. That's
Yeah.
essentially what she was saying. What went wrong? Why does my son feel this? Doesn't he understand that he has to make the same sacrifices that I made and give up on his passion just to survive? And you don't have to. You can do both, is what I'm trying to say. Now, if you figure out a way to make money from your passion, amazing. I mean, kudos to you. But you can still do your passion while still dealing with your job that pays the bills. And so part of my book is about that, about how to incorporate things that you love into your life to make your life more meaningful, to make your life full of purpose, and not to feel that like every day is the same day. You're like just this rat going in the circle. Because
Yeah.
sometimes life can feel like that if you don't
Yeah.
incorporate the things that you love.
Yeah. I'm cracking up because I totally understand the judges. Like, what? Get the job. Pull up your big boy. I have two boys, right? So I go, pull up your big boy pants. Do it. Like what? So see, that's that old school way of thinking.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
it's
mhm,
interesting because I'm surrounded by millennials and Gen Zs
mhm,
with my training. It's all new employees coming in. So I'm curious like you, where I ask questions and saying, you just said this. Tell me why you thought that. That's so
Mhm.
interesting to me. So I'm
Mhm.
almost doing research, right, on these younger generations. Number one, because I want to remain relevant, certainly, and I want to be able to connect with them so that they learn what I could teach them, right? Because I have 40 years of experience. Like, tap into me, kids. Here you go.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
want to understand them because I think they are courageous. I look at my kids and they say, Mom, we're going to do this, but then this, I'm not going to do the soul sucky job for, and I go, okay. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get the whole passion thing. But I also agree that sometimes if you really can't turn the passion into a job, right, to support a family, whatever it might be, especially if there's severe situations where you have a child that has a lot of needs and stuff like that, right? Sometimes you can't do your passion, but you can
Mhm.
do it on the side. So
Mhm.
I'll just share, I have a brother-in-law. He does title searching for 40 years. He's a peer, my age, right? So he's been doing it. But throughout his entire career, he's been in bands. He's an excellent musician and singer. He knew he couldn't make money doing that, or he didn't think he
Mhm.
could make money doing that. He has played in bands. We've gone to see him at the Elks Club, and it brings joy to him. When he has a
Mhm.
bad day, he goes down into his little studio that they created in the house, and it's little, but he plays his guitar or whatever it is, or listens to his music. That is what fills his soul. So he didn't make money
Mhm.
off of it, but pure
Mhm.
joy for him. And it makes the
Mhm.
job so much more tolerable because now you're going in with a full heart that the job really becomes a means to an end instead of, oh God, here we go. I'm a prisoner in my own skin. And that's not okay. So finding that balance, finding that passion, and then where does it fit in on the scale? It's not an all
Mhm.
or nothing, right? It could be a piece of
Mhm.
the joy in my life. I think that's important. The other thing I wanted to comment on, I remember in my day, you had to stay at a job 5 years, let them suck
Oh.
the soul out. Had it was so how have things changed, right? 40 years ago, it was 5 years.
Mhm.
Your
Mhm.
generation, right? You're like maybe 20 years below me. It was
Mhm.
2 years, and now these
Mhm.
kids are 6 months. You don't deliver, I'm out of here. So
Exactly.
I don't think any are right or wrong. There's no judgment for me, but I
Mhm.
think that we have to understand why things have changed. And I think
Mhm.
corporations are waking up to some extent and saying, whoa, we have to make sure that we're engaging with our employees as well, and challenging them to grow so they feel fulfilled and they can feel passionate about what they
Mhm.
are doing.
Mhm.
I mean, even if it's just counting widgets or counting nuts and bolts, but if they feel valued, valuable, there's a level of passion that could be brought into any job. So I love
Mhm.
the idea of this book
Mhm.
because number one, we have to know what we're passionate about because that's what fills our
Mhm.
soul and keeps us going. Number two, understanding that, where does it fit in again on the scale of that all or nothing, and how can I incorporate it and how can I share it with the world so that I have this wonderful ripple effect that brings
Mhm.
value, that brings joy.
Mhm.
I think when we can impact others in our orbit, right? Whether it's at work, at home, with our friends, family, it doesn't really matter, right?
And that's the other part about passion. When you think about people like artists, who create art, who create music, they bring joy to the world. It's not just that they feel satisfied, but the people that listen to their art, the people that read their books, the people that see what they do, they're getting something. I mean, just think about all the musicians in the world and how much happiness they've brought, from the Beatles to, I mean, there's so many even Taylor Swift. I mean, she's brought so much joy to the world with her music. And just think about if she would have given up. I mean, that would have been a real loss to our culture. That would have been a
Yeah.
loss to so many people. And so what I tell people is don't just think about it as yourself, because what you have is a contribution to society. I mean, don't deny people that contribution. Now, it may be, it playing in a band and your friends and family see it and they enjoy it and they love it. And that's a contribution. That's just as important than,
Yeah.
having I don't know, 200,000 people at your concert. But and so it's one of those things that when we pursue our passion, it brings happiness to us, but it
Mhm.
also is our contribution to the world. And we often don't think about that. I've had people read my books and reach out to me and say, your book changed my life. Your book did this,
Yeah.
your book did that. And you have no idea what that means to me. No idea. I had this conversation with my husband just a couple days ago. We were talking about my writing, because I have my legal career, right? And then I have my writing career. And my writing career, my legal career has paid me throughout the years. My writing career, I've done for the love of writing. I've done it because I love it. And I was
Yep.
telling him, I said, I have moments where I think about what if I would have taken all those hours spent writing and researching and editing, and I would have just been working traditionally. Yes, would I have more money? Absolutely. But would I have the same level of happiness and satisfaction? No. And so it gives me something that's priceless. It gives me something that I can't monetize. And I was talking to him about that because sometimes I think to myself, well, instead of, doing this writing, if I just, worked more, if I build more clients, if I did this, but then I think, but then that makes me kind of a person who doesn't feel fulfilled in my own life. And when I'm fulfilled, I'm a better attorney, I'm a better wife, I'm a better friend, I'm a better daughter
Yeah.
because I have more to give, because I
Yeah.
have filled my own cup. And so
Yeah.
now I want others to fill their cup. And I think people don't realize that it's not just about you, it's about the contribution that you give to the people around you. And you have no idea. When I wrote the Red Movement, just recently, this lady in France wrote a review on Amazon, and it was so beautiful. And I almost cried because it was such a wonderful review. And she said, I've read this book and I'm sharing with people, and it's really life changing, and it's sort of connected the dots for me. And I remember thinking to myself, like, when I started writing this book 10 years ago, I never would have thought some person in France was going to write a review, or Germany or Italy or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, how lucky am I that I stayed with it to sort of see this happen? Now, was it hard? Heck yeah, it was hard. There were
Yeah.
nights that I was up till 3 a.m. There was days where I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just writing. I mean, no one's paying me. No one's, I'm doing it. But then I thought to myself, well, not doing it is worse. It's worse than putting it out there and knowing, hey, I might not make a lot of money for this, but I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because it's a contribution to myself and to those around me. And that is something you cannot put in dollars. It's
Yeah.
priceless. And once you
Yeah.
do your passion, you realize that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Everything you say, I'm just giggling. Couple of takeaways that again I want people to think about. So I recently saw someone when I started my business 25 years ago, they were in training with me, whatever bank they were working for.
Mhm,
Recently saw them and they recognized me immediately, came over. I was with a friend having lunch, and they came over and knew it was me and looked at my friend and said, "She's amazing." And thank God I remember who they were. I couldn't remember their name, but I remember the context of what bank they were working for, et cetera, and their
mhm,
position. And she looked at me and she said, "Do you know when you used to come in, to do the work with us?" She goes, we would leave and we would feel like we were walking on air. We would leave thinking we can do this. We can help
mhm,
our clients better. We can." And she said she was getting all excited. And so she looked at my friend because you're lucky, like she's your personal friend. It was the cutest exchange. Can I tell you? I was crying. I said, like, what are you talking about? No, and I say I'm going to cry now. We have let me catch my breath for a minute. We have no idea what you were saying. We have no idea the ripple effect you have. And sometimes here's the other thing. That was 20 years in the making, people. It wasn't like I do get positive feedback, but she remembered things I taught 20 years ago.
mhm,
She remembered and reiterated them back to, do you know I still use? Do you know I sat there and I thought my job is done. That's what we show up to do. I'm lucky
mhm,
enough that I get to live my passion and get paid for it, right?
mhm,
But that's what we're talking about. That level of embracing your true essence of your soul.
mhm,
And the other thing I wanted
mhm,
to say is I do a value statement worksheet with my clients, depending on what the venue is that they're doing business development, et cetera. Okay. So was teaching this class and they send me their value statement and then I go in and they have to give me fun facts about themselves. And then I edit it to weave those fun facts and make it relevant for the client. And they
mhm,
laugh at me and they go, "I never knew that special sauce about me would benefit my clients." But I said, people do business with people they like, trust, and understand. So why
mhm,
wouldn't you share the essence of who you are, the essence of your soul? That's what's going to compel people to work with you, not because you have a great checking account. Like keep it in perspective here, people, right? It matters how obviously what you're selling, you have to be
mhm,
passionate about and believe in as well. But you have to show up for your client. And that's exactly what you did with your writing. I don't know who's going to read this, but that lady in France certainly resonated with her. It was life
mhm,
changing for her. That's why you write the book. And you can't put a price tag on that because
mhm,
that
mhm,
fills our soul, but it also fills others. And that's
mhm.
what we need to do as humans, I believe. So that
Mm.
I'm with you 100%. I have one more question. Who is this book really meant for? And it might not be when you were writing it thinking about it, but now that it's been out there since April, who's reading it that you're getting this like, holy smokeroonies, this really changed my life.
So when I started writing the book, it was the book I needed to read in my 20s and 30s. It was the book that I wish had been out there. I wish, and so instead it wasn't out there. So I started to do research and sort of really kind of I've read so many books and I've, looked at so many different disciplines. So uh, when it was first published, it was published in April. So I mean it's only been out 5 or 6
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
When I first published it, I would have said it's for people that are in their 20s and 30s that are searching for meaning and purpose in their life. Now that that's been out for 6 months and I've gotten all these reviews and people have reached out to me, I would say it's really for anyone. It's really for anyone. It's really for everyone because all of us, I don't care who you are, if you walk down the street and you stop people and you say to them, what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you love? What is it that makes you think like if I do this, you like wake up in the morning with an extra spring in your step? Everyone has that. Everyone, I don't care who they are, if it's a 17-year-old boy to a 65-year-old man. Everyone has things that they love to do that fill their soul. The problem is we live in a society that doesn't encourage us to do that, right?
Yeah.
It encourages us to do everything else but that. And so this book was kind of a love letter to people saying, it's good that you're different. Your difference is a superpower. I grew up for years not liking my name Shadan because it was different. This is a true story. When I was in elementary school, I wanted to be Jenny. I'm not kidding. I really did because I thought, oh, how wonderful it would be to have like a name like Jenny or Jennifer and fit in and now that I'm older, I love my name. I love my name. It's different. People always ask me about it. It's hard to pronounce, but it's unique. And for most of my life, I kind of fought against it. I fought against my uniqueness. I thought it was kind of something that made me not normal or something that made me different, and somehow that was bad. And it wasn't until my
Mm,
30s that I realized, no, our differences are our superpower. It's what
absolutely.
makes us interesting. It's our contribution to the world. And so I kind of wrote this book for that person like me who grow up wanting to be something that they weren't, wanting to be like everyone else, wanting to be all my friends growing up, they were Jen or Jennifer. It's so funny. I look back on junior high, elementary school, they were all Jen or Jennifer, and I wanted that name. But now, 30 years forward, I actually love my name. I'm really glad my parents didn't name me Jennifer. I'm
Yeah.
glad they gave me such a unique name, but it took me a long time to get there. And I don't want it to take other people
Yeah.
decades like it took me. I really don't because that was hard. That's really hard when you're trying to fight against who you are and saying, well, that person's normal. I want to be like them. But we all
Yeah.
do it just in different ways. For most people, it's not because their name is Shadan and they want to be Jennifer. For most people, they just want to be normal. But one of the things I talk about in this book is what's so great about being normal? You don't want to be normal. Normal is boring. And the
Average.
and the Gen Zers are the ones paving this message ahead.
I
What's so great
agree.
about being normal? And my whole life, that's all I wanted to be. I wanted to be like everyone else. And probably about 10 years, actually, no, 14 years ago, I worked with this career coach. And he said to me, what's so great about being normal? And I remember it was like this light bulb moment for me. And I was like, that's a great question. I don't know. Let me think about that. What is so great about being normal? And that statement changed my life. And I'm hoping that this book kind of does the same for others
Yeah.
to say that whatever's different about you, that is your superpower.
Yeah. For
Being
sure.
normal is nothing to be proud of. I mean, if
Yeah.
you are normal, great. In a lot of ways, we're all very normal, but there's also things about us that are different. And when we embrace those things, it's a gift, not just to us, but to those around us, because we sort of become emboldened to be ourselves. And
Yeah.
when we become emboldened to be ourselves, we inspire others to do the same. And there's
Yeah.
something really powerful in that.
Yeah. It's like we're allowing others to shine their light without judgment because we're a
Exactly.
society of judgment. Okay, I'm really cracking up. So my legal name is Conchetta. I do not like my legal name. And so I was a kid. We were living in Newark Catholic school. and they would get to, my maiden name is Frega. So they would get to
Mm.
the F's, and I would raise my hand for fear that they would try to say, because they never said it correctly, by the way.
Mhm.
And I would raise my hand, and the nuns would say, I'd say, oh, just call me Connie. And they would say, oh, but how do you say it? Concetta? And I'm like, now I got to correct them. Right. So I would correct them. And I remember coming home in tears one day, and I said, I want to change my name to Mary. So we live parallel lives. Well, this is the funniest thing. So fast forward, because I was abused as a child, my name was mocked and I was criticized terribly.
Mhm.
And then the other thing too is at lunch, because I was Italian, we didn't have white bread. My parents didn't know what
Mhm.
white bread is. My dad came here from Italy. So we had the panelle, right? It's an Italian bread, and we had
Mhm.
fresh mozzarella on it. Back then, I'd go, can I have peanut butter and jelly? My mother goes, peanut butter and jelly. You're having the fresh mozzarella with the roasted peppers. And everybody would come over. What? I was a little kid. What's that? It was weird. Now I kill
Mhm.
for a good piece of fresh mozzarella with good
Mhm.
Italian bread, right? How
Mhm.
things
Mhm.
change. The funniest thing, when I had my kid Shadan, I labored over names, because nope, that's not a good name because of this. My husband was like, you're making me crazy. So my boys' names are John and James. Can they be more? Here's an interesting thing too, right? So they went to school, and the teachers would say, oh, you like Johnny? And my, no, I'm John. And my son James, they said, do you like Jimmy, Jim? I'm James. So I said to my husband, you see how important a name is? They understand. See, we teach our kids craziness. This is the moral of the story for my listeners. But here's the deal. The reality is, your name is what makes you special. My name definitely makes me special. It's memorable. You know, I'm
Mhm.
also very big. I'm 5'10" and a half. I have curly
Mhm.
hair. You know, that was another thing. All my friends in school, they had straight hair parted in the middle. I ironed
Mhm.
my hair. We didn't have the irons. It was horrible. I looked like horrible. I won't even let my kids see pictures of me when I was young. So all of these things that we hide, and as soon as you embrace your greatness, my curly hair, my height, amazing things start happening. So
Mhm.
we're really good at dimming our light, and your book
Mhm.
is about shining your light, and whatever that is for you, honor it and
Mhm.
go for it, baby. That's what we're talking about. So
Mhm.
I love it. We're out of time, but I have to, okay, so you need more Shadan in your life. So I'm gonna, her email is, seriously, and you know what I was giggling with, those that are watching on YouTube, you saw, I'm sure you saw me smiling from ear to ear. Your energy, your passion as you were sharing these experiences, the experiences with the two appellate court judges, and you're in between thinking, no, I understand your son, right? You didn't say anything for fear, right? Because you didn't have the reputation you have
Mhm.
now, right? But all
Mhm.
of that
Mhm.
passion coming from you was just truly a delight for me. So thank you, my friend, for bringing
Mhm.
your A game. We need to show up in life, and I think amazing things happen when we do, but we're
Mhm.
afraid of being judged. So it starts with
Mhm.
you. Don't
Mhm.
judge, right? Go out there and be
Mhm.
you, shine your light, and the heck with everybody else. If they don't like it, that's on them, as long as you're not
Mhm.
hurting anyone. That's my only caveat.
Mhm.
No hurting other people. All right. So
Mhm.
email if you have a question. Please email Shadan directly. It's Shadan Kapri. That's with a Kapri. I'll put it in the show notes at iCloud.com. Follow her on Instagram. She does a lot of inspirational things. I think that'll get you guys charged up. It's at the at symbol Shadan Kapri. Again, I'll put that in the show notes. And I will put the Red Movement, our conversation with our last show a few weeks ago. I'll put that in the show notes for you guys to go and get a little bit more Shadan and Connie in your life. So, my friend, thank you for being on and you taking. I feel like I took up a lot of time today. I apologize, but I hope that our inspired conversation inspires people to go out and really live their passion. I think that's really the moral of the story today. So thank you so much for being
Mhm.
on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I enjoy our time together. We both talk fast and we both fire and we both are very animated when we talk, but it's all good. It's all good. So
Yeah, it's
thanks
all
again.
good.
Yeah, it's all
Thank
good.
you.
But hey, we're being us. There's nothing wrong with being you. So thank
Mm-mm.
you again. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where you are on your journey of change. My guests and I, we really do try to provide stories, insights, we expose our silliness and our vulnerabilities because that's how people learn and that's how people are inspired. So here's your call to action. Please go buy the book, Discovering Your Passion, The Path to Your Authentic Life. And I think that's an important read for all of us so that we do show up every day. We have one shot, man, at this life, right? So let's make it great. Why trudge through life when we can really, really make a difference in the world? And I do believe that's what we're all here to do. So Shadan, thank you again for being on. Thank you all for listening. You've tuned in to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. I am inspired that you listen to the show every week. You inspire me, and please subscribe, rate, and review the show. Apple, it's all a numbers game out there, guys. So if you can rate and review, plus I do read the reviews and they do tickle me and make me smile and fill my soul with joy that we are making a difference in your life. I love you all. Have an inspired week filled with magic, and I'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks again.